We're all told that being smart is like having a superpower, right? It's supposed to make life easier. But what if that's not the whole story? Today, we're diving deep into something called the intellectual paradox and exploring the really surprising ways a sharp mind can actually make life, well, a lot more complicated.
I mean, just think about that for a second. It's the central question we're tackling. What if the one thing we all strive for, being smarter, comes with its own hidden set of challenges that nobody ever talks about? You know the drill. From the time we're kids, it's hammered into us. Get good grades, be the smart one. Society basically sells us this idea that high intelligence is the ultimate cheat code for life. It's supposed to open every door, guarantee success, and make everything a walk in the park. But is it really that simple? And that brings us to our first big idea. We're going to start by tearing down that very assumption. We're calling this section the myth of brilliance, because we're about to unpack some of the unexpected and frankly difficult challenges that come with having a really sharp mind. Okay, this slide just lays it all out perfectly. On the left, you've got the fantasy, the expectation. You're going to be a super confident success machine, making flawless decisions. But then, look at the right. The reality can be a lot messier. Things like analysis paralysis, imposter syndrome, even existential dread. The gap between those two columns is huge, and that's where the paradox lives. So let's start with that first problem. This next section is all about thinking too much. This is what happens when you have this incredibly powerful engine for a brain, but you just can't find the off switch. It just gets stuck in permanent overdrive. And one of the biggest side effects of that is something called analysis paralysis. Basically, it's when you think about a problem so much, from so many angles, that you end up completely frozen. You can't make a decision at all. It's like staring at a Netflix menu for an hour and then just giving up and going to bed. And here's exactly how that happens. We call it the overthinking loop. It starts with something totally simple, but then your brain starts generating every possible option, and then it analyzes every single outcome of every single one of those options, and pretty soon you are drowning in your own data. The result? You do nothing. A simple question like, what should I have for lunch, becomes this massive, unsolvable puzzle. Sound familiar? I bet it does. But, this overthinking isn't just about making choices. It goes way deeper, and it gets emotional. Which brings us to our next section, the weight of awareness. This is about the heavy burden that can come from seeing all the world's flaws and complexities with a little too much clarity. When you see everything so clearly, it can kick off what we call existential anxiety. It's that deep, nagging sense of unease about the biggest questions of all. Why are we here? What's the point? What happens when it's all over? For a highly analytical mind, these aren't just thoughts you can brush aside. They stick. And we're not just talking about some minor worries. These are the kinds of questions that can literally keep you up at night. While some people can just go about their day, a highly intelligent person can get completely bogged down by these, feeling the full weight of global injustice or their own place in the universe in a really intense way. So when you're thinking this deeply and feeling things this intensely, it can make it hard to connect with people. And that leads us right into our next section, a different wavelength. It's all about the social isolation that can come from just not being on the same frequency as everyone else. This quote just nails that feeling, doesn't it? You're in a conversation, you're all using English words, but the deep concepts or the nuances you're trying to share just aren't landing. It can feel incredibly lonely, like you're behind a pane of glass. And this chart really shows us part of the reason why. If you look at the societal norm on the right, the focus is often on having a wide circle of friends. But for many highly intelligent people, on the left, it's not about quantity. It's about a desperate search for a few truly deep, meaningful connections. And because that's a much higher bar, it can be a real struggle to find. And all of this, feeling different, holding yourself to these incredibly high standards, it's the perfect recipe for imposter syndrome. You could have a resume a mile long, awards on your shelf, but deep down, there's this nagging voice that says, you're a total fraud, and at any moment, everyone's going to find out. Okay, so after all of these heavy challenges, where do we go? The point here isn't to feel sorry for smart people, not at all. It's about understanding the full picture. So, in our last section, beyond the IQ score, we're going to talk about how to reframe this whole thing to think about what a truly smart life actually looks like. Look, let's be super clear. The big takeaway here is not that being smart is a curse. It's that intelligence isn't some simple superpower.
It's a complex, powerful tool. And just like any tool, from a hammer to a supercomputer, it's not about having it, it's about how you learn to use it effectively.
So, what does a healthier perspective look like? Well, first, just acknowledge that these struggles are real. They're not something you're making up. Second, start to see that overthinking habit as a feature of your brain, not a bug. It's what it's designed to do. Third, realize that your desire for deep connection is a strength, not a social flaw. And finally, maybe the biggest one, redefine what success means to you so it's not just about intellectual trophies, but also about peace and happiness.
And so that's what I want to leave you with. Now that we get this paradox, now that we know the challenges, how can all of us, no matter where we fall on the intelligence spectrum, start to redefine what it really means to live a smart life? One that's not just about what you know, but about how you live, how you connect, and how you find meaning. That's a question worth thinking about.